Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Sass. We're going to be covering use and imports, mixins, extends, and conditionals like if-else statements in our CSS. So let's get started. So I've gone ahead and created an index.html as you can see here, and I've just put some boilerplate in. So if I click save, it reloads over here because I've opened it with live server. So if I right click, I can open it with live server. So before we get started with the actual Sass, I need to create some elements that I can actually go ahead and style. So I'm going to say header, it's going to have a navigation in it, it's going to have a UL, li, and let's just say 3 li's. We're going to have home, about, and then contact in here. Fantastic. And then I'm also going to have some sections because I want to style some body up. So I'm going to say content. I'm going to have a P in there. What else is it? Actually, let's start with a span for an avatar. That's going to have a class of avatar. Then I'm also going to have a P, some content of some content. And then I'm also going to have a couple of buttons. So let's say button with a class of btn times 2. So all of this is just emit. I'm doing nothing fancy except from actually creating some HTML element quickly. So we've got our avatar span, and we've got a couple of buttons. Let's knock down. Let's say button hyphen dark and button hyphen light. Didn't actually give it any content, so let's just say click me. It doesn't have to be fancy. This is just to demonstrate. So save. Fantastic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate a couple of sections just so we've got like some of the same elements that we can replicate a few times. But ultimately, for us to be able to work with Sass, we need to compile it into CSS. And that sounds fancy, but it's really not. It's basically a machine, an application, a program, something taking your CSS file and converting it into CSS files. So we're going to be using Visual Studio Code, and within our extensions there's a live Sass compiler that basically will create a button down here which allows you to watch for any changes to your Sass files and then automatically spit out a CSS file. So if I create a new folder, I call it assets, and in here I'm going to create a style.css, SCSS, so our Sass file basically. Now in here I've already got a Sass file, that's why it was already appearing, but you should see a watch Sass file. Now what I can do is click this and it will automatically create our CSS file. Now we can see down here that it's watching and whenever we type anything in here, so if I say all and box hyphen sizing border box, save that, we get a success. It's detected that we've made a change. Even though this is just normal CSS, it's detected that we've made a change. We've saved it, and it will compile it over here into exactly what we need it to spit out by. So it's taken it, this particular Sass compiler has taken into consideration your WebKit as well as your regular browser properties. So to get started, we're going to use @use, or more importantly, @import. So use is not as adopted, so we're going to be focusing on @import, and let's go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to go over to my index.html and create a link to our style sheet. And so style.css, our path is /assets/style.css. Save that, and nothing changes because we've only got a box size in over here. So if I say the body is going to be, let's say background is going to be blue. Save this, and our style.css gets compiled, and we've now got these two styles rendering. Fantastic. However, what happens if I want to split these styles up? So this is more of a reset, and I want styles to concentrate just on this. What I can do is create a new file, and I can call this underscore.css. Create that, and then I'm going to copy these styles, and I'm going to put these into my reset. I'm going to change the background back to white. Then I'm going to come over into our style.css, and if I save this, now nothing changes. So we go back to the default, nothing, no styling has appeared, and we've got no CSS. That is because we're not doing anything with this file. We need to import it. At import, and then what's the path that we want to go to? Well, it's just underscore there. Yes. Save that. Reload. Oh. Reload. And it's not. Oh, it's white. That's why. I reset it. Let's just change it quickly to red. Fantastic. Oh, sorry. Not over here. Reset. Let's change that to red. Save. Gets compiled. It's being imported into our style.css. The style.css is being compiled and rendered down into a single file. Fantastic. So let's just go ahead and delete that. So that lets us move over to variables quite smoothly. What I'm going to do is come back over to my style.css, and what I might find is I want my the body to be a certain color. Let's say the background is going to be a black. And I also want my buttons to have a background of black. Now, obviously, this is not user-friendly at all because it's not going to be legible. Oh, way too many. How many have we got there? There we go. So we've got a body of black and a button background of black. So right now we're going to lose, all legibility of this. Now, this is going to be fine and it'll work. However, if this application was quite large, going through and changing all of the instances of black to, I don't know, change the slight rebrand that we're having with the website, or to slightly manipulate stuff, it's going to be really difficult because I'm going to have to find all of the instances and change it. Then I'm going to have to change all of the other, the alternate colors. Now, what we can do is we can store this in a variable. So let me just save this quickly and show you that it's rendering. Now, I can come up here and I can say, well, actually, create a variable. And if you're familiar with other programming languages like PHP or JavaScript, variables are just ways of you storing some data. So you start your variable with a $, and then there's no convention. Like you can write anything. You could do PRY for primary. You could do first. You could do first. You could do whatever. I like to write hyphen primary hyphen and then abbreviate what it is that I'm working with. So primary color in this instance. I'm doing a semicolon, and then what I'm going to say is hashtag 000000. Oh, the black. Now I can take this variable and I can store it in replace of the hard coded colors. So if I save that, nothing changes. However, now I can just change it in a single spot. I can come over here. Let's go. You know what? I want to deal with a light green. Save this, and everything changes. I get my background on my buttons and whatever. If I wanted my P to also have a color of primary color, that would be absolutely fine. Obviously, it would be weird, but like that would work. There's no limit to the amount of times that I can use this. Now, convention is to not store it in the same file. It's typically, common practice to create another file. And I'm just going to go ahead and import that before creating it. Say variables. Oh, that's not how you spell variables. Variables. Save that. Create the file. Let's just close that off. Underscore variables. I'm going to comment what I'm doing. So say this is going to be my colors section, for example. Colors. Save that. And now where it's getting imported, it renders successfully. We've got a success down here, and I've got all of my styles. Now I can come over to my variables, change one line, manipulate this to be whatever. Let's just change it to a light pink. Save, and we get a light pink. Likewise, I think you get the idea. I can change in this, and it will just replace everywhere. So if I save that, now obviously color is going to be not legible at all, so let's create a secondary color. So I'm going to come over here, just duplicate the line. I'm just using Alt, Shift and down. That will just duplicate my line. I'm going to secondary color, and let's just say I want like a nice black here. Save that, come back to my P, and instead of primary color, I'm going to say secondary color. There you go. And we can keep on using this all over the place. Now, there's no limit to the amount of variables or the amount of times that you have used it as well. So if I come back into my variables, I'm just going to copy the comments, and I'm just going to declare maybe sizes. So save this, and again you can call it whatever. I like to just declare like hyphen hyphen, just so, you know, to make it legible for me. And I'm going to say primary hyphen font hyphen size. Bit of a mouthful, but I like to just name my variables logical. So when I'm looking at it after I've got, you know, dozens of potential variables, you know, it's just really clear as to what I'm working with. So my primary font size, what I might say is, let's just say this is 30 pixels high. So it's going to be quite big. Come back over to my style.css. It's obviously we're already getting imported, and I can come over here and say my font hyphen size is hyphen hyphen primary hyphen font size. Save that, and we get, you know, 30 pixels. A little bit. 30 pixels for the font, for the P's. Great. And likewise, we know we can use that. Just because it's got the name of primary font size doesn't necessarily mean we have to use it for the fonts. We can use it anywhere else, anywhere that we want this to be changed. So if I change this to 60 pixels right now, and we could use that variable. Obviously, it doesn't make sense if you call it primary font size to use it for like the header height, for example. You probably set a header height property. So this leads me on to a hierarchy quite nicely. So I'm just going to change the font here and say 1 rem, goes back to a normal size. Now, just to remind ourselves of what the hierarchy of our elements are up here, I've got a header, and that's got a navigation with some elements in it. So I've got header, nav, ul, li. And to target this, what we might find is actually, if I keep on getting quite specific with our, you know, our elements, and say, well, in here I'm going to have, say, a span, and in here I'm going to have an image, and this is going to have a class of, say, something, you know, like this is indicative as to how, you know, a normal website would be. You will have a lot of nodes as your application evolves and become, you know, quite a bit bigger. So to target this specific element, unless I was going to use something like an ID or a class, I'd have to be hyper specific with my targeting. So I'd have to do something like header, nav, ul, li. The li has got a class of something. What did we say? Span. And then there's going to be an image. Now, that's how I target that. But if I wanted to target the elements above it, I've got to do this, and then pick up the, you know, do that, and then I want to not just target the span, I want to target just the li. And as you can see, there's a lot of replication here, and there's a lot of duplication. So as we all know in programming, and I suppose with most things in life, you try and work to the dry principles. So don't repeat yourself. And if you're repeating yourself, there's probably a better way to do it. And with Sass, there is. So what we've got here is our header, nav, ul, li, class, span, image. I'm going to come over to my style.scss. For some reason, I just can't get it into my head that it's not style.css. SCSS. Oh my god. Style.scss. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I want to target my header, and I'm going to set the background to be our primary color. Let's just do primary. Let's just do white actually. Let's say FFF. Save that. So I've set my background as white. Fantastic. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to target my navigation in here as well. So what I can do is usually, as I said a minute ago, we would do header, nav, and break down into here. However, now we can say, well, actually within our header, break down, and let's target our nav. And now I can say background is green. Save this, and our background is green. If I add some, say, padding onto this, 10 pixels, there we go. We still see our white and our green. Now, what's being rendered here? If I open up the style.css, what we'll see is we've got a header, our padding of 10, our background, and then our header and nav. Now, it's taken header and nav and compiled it together because it's acknowledged the fact that there's a hierarchy here. It knows that we're talking about the nav within the header. And likewise, we can keep on going down. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say ul. And let's say the ul, we want margin 0, padding 0. And then we can break down, we can target the li. So we can say list style. Yeah, let's say disk go, or we can say none, save, and now we're targeting many different levels of our elements, and we're not replicating or duplicating ourselves. Come back to variable style.css, and it's spat out everything. And note it's ignored the ones which don't have any styles in it. So style, header, nav doesn't have any styles in it. The ul, the li does. Header, nav, ul, and li. It's ignored the header, nav, because it's acknowledged the fact that there's no properties in there. Now this is a really clean way for you to kind of acknowledge levels and blocks of your code. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all of this header and I'm going to just throw it into its own file. So I'm going to say header, Sass, save that, whack that in there, and I'm going to come back up and I'm going to import header. Right, so nothing changed. We're still getting our render. If I delete this, save, it goes back. It's fine. It's all working. So let's just leave it. It's fine. So next, I want to talk about mixins. Mixins are a way for you to create reusable blocks of code. Basically, if you ever worked with JavaScript or PHP or something, other programming languages, you can create what's called functions. Mixins are almost identical to functions. So a function is a way for you to kind of write a block of code and then call that block of code in multiple different locations. So you start off by typing @mixin and then you give it a name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say display and open and close my parentheses and then open and close my curly brackets. Now this display, we can pass in arguments into here and we'll talk about that in a second. But in here, what I'm going to say is I'm going to write some styles. I'm going to say the height of this element is 100 viewport heights. The width is 100 viewport widths. I'm going to say display flex, justify content center, and then align items center. Now I find myself writing this block of code quite often, especially when I'm working with like full screen page takeovers and whatnot. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start a target. Actually, yeah, let's just come down here and I'm going to target our section, and the way that I get this code down here into here is I need to @include, and then I include display. So this is going to take all of these styles up here and bring them into section. If I save this, what you can see is our sections now have gone full screen, and I can scroll down past our 3 sections. Right, so here what I can do is actually pass in properties. I'm going to say height, and not height. I'm going to say 100 pixels. Let's save that. I'm going to take in my argument up here, height, and then I'm going to put height in here. Save that, and now all of our elements are 100 pixels. Come over to style.css. Go down to section, you can see it's rendered 100 pixels. Now, sometimes you may forget to put this in, and if I don't put a style in here, save this, we get an error, and that is because it's looking for, in this block of code, it's looking for height, and it's trying to declare height, but height doesn't exist. So you can also set a default value. So use a semicolon, and you could say, if no value is set, the default value is 100 viewport heights. Save. And we get 100 viewport heights. However, if I come back, change it again to say 200 pixels, we now get 200 pixels. In addition, we don't have to be restricted to a single argument as well. So I'm going to pass in another, say, I don't know, 100 pixels. 100 pixels for our width, and then I'm going to declare it again up here. So I'm going to say width. And again, we don't have to do that. It could be W, it could be anything. Like it's fine, whatever we name these. But I'm gonna width, then use a colon, and then say the default value for this is gonna be 100 viewport widths. Then I'm gonna pass in width here, save that, and because this has got a width, it's shrunk it down. If I take this width off, come back up here, save width colon 100 viewport widths. And it's taken 100% of the screen up now. Sass allows us to create our styles on our CSS in a very modular way. So the reason we've been splitting everything up into individual files is because it just becomes more legible and more manageable as style sheets, and then you can have something to spat out. But just like we've been doing in all of our other files, I'm going to take this and then I'm going to create another file called _mixins .css, save that, come back over here, and I just need to import this. Mixins, I'm going to put this up at the top. Okay, so yeah, somewhere there. And then we've obviously got an error, so on line 3, error, I'll mixins, save that, and everything works as normal. So we can still include our mixins and extend them in from another file. Now, sticking with the mixin theme, I'm just going to come back and remind ourselves what we've got. We've got avatar, and I'm going to actually say avatar is avatar -1, and let's just copy this down a couple of times. 1, 2, 3. So now we can target. We're using block. We're using Ben basically. So we're saying avatar, but then we can also style avatar up slightly different with 1, 2, and 3. So save this. And I'm going to come over to my style.css and I'm going to say, okay, the class of avatar, I want to give it a height of say 100 pixels and a width of 100 pixels. And I'm going to say the background red for the time being, and margin is 30 pixels. Save that, and you know what? Let's make it a little bit more easy. AI, select somewhere. Okay, that's fine. Now this style works and it's fine. However, what we can do is we can throw all of this into mixin. So I'm going to take all of these styles, come over to our mixins, at mixin, and then avatar. What arguments do we want to take in? We don't want to take any in at the moment. Save this, come back to our style over here, and then I'm just going to do what we've done on our section, and at include avatar. So we're not expecting anything to change here. Let's just add a semicolon there. We're not expecting anything to change. We're just basically including our styles that we've got in mixin, and it works and it's fine. Now what we can do though is we can say this style and this style is the same. However, we may want one of them to be circle. So I'm going to take in a property, an argument, sorry, and call this circle. I'm going to set the default value to false, and then I'm going to create a condition here, and I'm going to say if circle. So basically, if you add no arguments onto it, that says whether it's true or false. So if circle is true, then do something. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to create a circle. Like we want to add a border radius to this. So I'm going to say border -radius is 50%. Save that. Nothing changes. It's fine. At least it's not failed at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say avatar -1, and I'm going to say true. Save that, and it doesn't work. So why hasn't it worked? Find out. Avatar border radius. I've spelt border wrong. Come over here. Save border -radius 50%. Save it. And we've now extended those styles. And as you could see a second ago, by having our avatar and then we've included that, but we've also got a true or false, which is border radius in this case is true. So avatar 1 is 50%. If we said avatar 1 and avatar 3 is true, we get the first and last element, which is a circle. Now, just carrying on with our conditionals, what we can do is we can declare whether we want a condition to happen, otherwise do something else. And we can also create multiple conditional checks. So by that I mean at else, do something else. So if it's false, sorry, if it's true, turn it into a circle. If it's false, we might want to say, well, actually, let's turn it into 15 pixels. Oh, 15 pixels. So we want a full circle if it's true. However, if it isn't true, we want a slightly rounded edge. And that is something that's perfectly syntactically correct within Sass. We can also do additional checks. So we can do if else, and we could say, well, if circle is equal to, I don't know, something, then we can set it to 15 pixels. And again, that's perfectly syntactically correct. However, this is always going to be matched the first time round because it's going to be true. But we'd have to change this. Let's just say if circle is equal to else if circle is equal to something, then we're going to set it to 15 pixels. So I'm going to take off the default value of false. Actually, let's just leave false on. Save that. So else and something isn't matched, so none of them are declared. And if I come over to our style, what we can do here is I can say, well, actually, instead of true, I want to match else. Save that, and we get the first and second one because that was our first condition. Or I can do something, and that matches first and third, and it sets the border radius as round. Likewise, I can come up here, do something, and that matches that condition on avatar, and that is this block of code. So it sets the border radius. So now, as you can see, we can start creating quite complex conditions and how to style our code up. So for example, in here, I might have a light theme and a dark theme. And then if we're using a light theme, show this particular color. If we're using a dark theme, show this particular color. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just reset everything that we've done. So let's just delete this. Let's say if circle, save, and true. Save. Okay, so we're back to square one. Now, what we can do with Sass is extend the styles from other elements. So here where I've included avatar a couple of times, might not want to have done that, but I could have extended whatever is going on in avatar and included it automatically in here. So just to give you an example, I'm going to create a class for our button. So we've got some buttons here, and I'm going to put this into a mixin. I'm going to say @mixins, and let's call this buttons. I say padding is 30 pixels and margin 10 pixels. Then let's save that. Come over here, and I'm going to @include buttons. Save, and we get some really basic rudimentary styling. Okay, fantastic. Now, if I wanted to maybe let's target the button which is dark. To do that, what I'd do is within button. Now, if I said dot button hyphen dark and style this is looking for a class which has got a child of button. However, if I add ampersand at the beginning of it, what this is saying now is look for a class of button and a class of button hyphen dark. So I'm basically just conjoining these together. So if I say color is green, if I can spell green, save, and that's all gone fine. We've got green text, and if I come over to my style.css, you can see that we've got a button which has got the styles, but button hyphen dark has also got the color of green. Great. Now let's just say it wasn't necessarily the button green, but maybe a border hyphen radius, and say border radius is 15 pixels. So we know that the dark button has got a border radius of 15 pixels. Well, what we could do is we can actually extend the dark into the light. So I'm going to say ampersand dot button hyphen is it light? Is that what we called it? Let me check. Yeah, light. And I'm going to extend dot btn hyphen dark. Save that, and if you can see now, all of our lights have now also got the border radius. And if I come back over to my style.css, well, we've got the btn dot button hyphen dark and btn light have both got the border radius of 15 pixels. Now, but we've not actually styled anything in this. If I come over here and say background is red, oh, this is going to look horrendous. Yeah, let's make it, let's say, like, okay, FFF, save that. Now we get a white background. Again, we're not doing anything here, but it's just extending whatever styles we put in. So we could take this out, we can extrapolate this if we want to. We can whack this down here and say the button light extend dark button, and now we can just put our own styles on top of this if we wanted to. So we could say, actually, you know what, we don't want the background to be white, we want it to be red. Let's just terminate that, save, and it looks like the style is getting overwritten. So okay, it's because we're being more specific at this point. So although it has created that style for us, because we've got a really targeted class, it's overwriting it at this point. However, if this was in, you know, another nested element somewhere else, that would absolutely work. So if I said, let's say, is this yes, section, open this up, oh, move that up into here, save, and I'm going to have to do the .btn. Save, and what do we get over here? Nothing, because I've done this, ampersand, there you go. So it seems like a lot of work that I've just done, but this is you know, quite a real world example. I've got multiple buttons and I want to just extend kind of the functionality of a single button or a single element onto other elements. So another example of this would be if you've got some form of alert system. Now all of the alerts look the exact same. You know, you've got an alert for success, you've got an alert for failure, you've got a warning, you've got a notification. However, they've all got the slight different quirks and tweaks. So what you might want to do is extend the base level and then add your additional styling on top of that. And again, that is, you know, relatively fairly common practice. So if I save this and we just revert back to what we had originally, so we've covered, just to recap, I suppose we have covered mixins, variables, imports, and the use statements. We've had the extend, and we've done complex conditionals. So I think that just about wraps it up there. You know, I think Sass is a really, really powerful tool, and as soon as you start kind of incorporating it into your development workflow, you probably won't go back to CSS, especially not for larger scale builds. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. If you do have any questions, as always, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll try and get back to everyone as quickly as possible. Until next time, take it easy.